Бахмут ніхто не буде. Будемо боротися скільки можемо. Вважаємо Бахмут
So in my previous installment about the mysteries of the Ukraine war, I examined the Russian retreat from Kherson and made the case that not only was it curious, but the Russians were able, or rather allowed, to calmly and successfully withdraw over 30,000 troops and thousands of pieces of heavy military equipment across the Dnipro to the east bank of the Kherson region on a damaged bridge. But I went further to suggest that the Kherson battle was actually a victory for the Russian army.
News consumers have good reason to be confused by the reports coming out of Ukraine. What happened to that other storyline that got so much play just a few weeks ago? The narrative that had Russian forces retreating from places like Kherson, allegedly in disarray.
As all reports indicated that the Russians were destroying the advancing Ukrainian army before they retreated. And what followed after that was a total shift in the tide of the war, as since then, Ukraine has not had a single victory on the battlefield. And perhaps one of the biggest battlefield victories for Russia followed in Bakhmut. And this is where I want to examine the second mystery of the Ukraine war. What was Bakhmut's real purpose for the Russian army? So let's start off with Yevgeny Prigozhin and what he said in a less spoken about essay that he published since January of 2023. The essay was entitled Only a Fair Fight, No Agreement. And in the first two paragraphs, Prigozhin writes that Zelensky sends more and more parts to this meat grinder, to the destructive funnel, which sucks the best units of the armed forces of Ukraine. He then asks, why did Zelensky rest so much on Bakhmut before he conceded that the strategic goal of Bakhmut was not even that great? Prigozhin said that Bakhmut was followed by Siversk, Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, Chasiv Yar. Further, he said that the capture of Bakhmut will not ensure a fleeting victory over Ukraine. But here we have Yevgeny Prigozhin, and he is saying that the purpose of Bakhmut isn't about taking the city, as it's not that strategically important. He then goes on to say that Ukraine had gathered about 200,000 troops, who he said were sufficiently trained with about 2 to 3 months of training, and that those troops were ready for the upcoming summer counteroffensive. He noted that if the Ukrainian army did not go on the offensive in the near future, they would, and I quote, lose their combat potential. This, of course, runs contrary to Western media reports that signal that Wagner and Russia were desperate to capture Bakhmut. So firstly, I find it amazing that despite Prigozhin publishing this essay since January of 2023, literally informing Ukraine and the West of Russia's strategy and their mistake of trying to defend Bakhmut. Despite all of that, Zelensky continued to send more and more troops into a death hit, which Newsweek warned was killing Ukrainian conscripts within 4 hours of entry. Maybe this is why Zelensky has lost the confidence of his top general, the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian armed forces, General Zaluzny, who was one out of many Ukrainian generals telling Zelensky to pull his troops out of Bakhmut since January of 2023.
Вас, чи підтримуєте ви продовження захисту Бахмуту, чи у вас, можливо, є якесь інше рішення?
Питати з генерала Залужного, чи погоджується він з рішенням головнокомандуючого чи ні, це було достатньо смішно. Це підрив єдиноначалія в армії. Тому генерал Залужний, незалежності від того, підтримує рішення Лютого, чітко сказав, що нема сенсу тримати Бахмут.